You know what's funny is when you go to make a video, and even though I uploaded my last video, it was still saved in the file, and it was taking up so much room that when I was making this video, the first copy of it, I didn't realize I had a limited amount of time because the storage was so full, and it screwed up. So now I'm not gonna extend an olive branch and like just drag this shit out. I've already recorded like half of this video and had to start a freaking game because I don't have editing equipment right now. It's gonna be a few months when I'm getting my new place, and then we're setting up everything to try new things. Essentially, right now I don't have the freaking time, and it's freaking freezing. It's Australia. It's 10 goddamn degrees, and it's pissing down rain. This is world building, and I think I'm going to title this video Rwby Consquences, because it's essentially the consequences of the show that we, the fandom, never see. And yes, this is blanket. That's how freaking cold it is right now. Essentially, it's the consequences of the show that we never see and are never brought up in the show, or they're leaving it for some stupid reason because that's their writing style. We'll leave it for a couple of years, and it gives them a reason to keep watching, kind of like Jean's Semblance, where it's like, hey, we won't reveal it for friggin' 5 goddamn years, and even though the fans pretty much knew what it was, and then we'll reveal it in the stupidest way possible by having the villain. Fuck Volume 5. I swear to God. YouTuber. This is look, basically showing you a bunch of questions, right? These are the consequences. But a shout out to a YouTuber called Noble, Noble. Very simple. You'll know his video when you see it. He's a Rwby fan, blah blah blah. Has to do with Oscar. And he says something very controversial in his video. If you like Ozpin, if you like Oscar, you're basically an idiot. I agree with him. Oscar's a horrible character. Not the character's fault. This goes straight to the creator's fault. He's like, every person in the Rwby fandom, I don't care. This is something that the Rwby fandom just agrees on. They're like, Oscar's handled terribly. This is something happened in Volume 6, and because this show essentially doesn't have deleted scenes, I am really curious over their, I don't know if it's like production decision or just their overall direction when they're like, you know what, we're gonna create a Pyrrha's mum ghost that somehow disappears in and off screen with a statue, and do Jean instead of Oscar. And yeah, it was a really poorly handled part of the character. But what does this have to do with Noble? It has more to do with what you can call the three faces of the character. We're dealing with Oscar, Ozma, Ozpin. Who was Ozpin? That has actually become a question in the fandom. Who was Ozpin? We don't know. Essentially, we don't know. We're left to speculate over who this character was. And I know that sounds weird because, go back and watch Volume 1 to 3. You can see Ozpin. And I'm like, yeah, but are you sure that was Ozpin? At all? Like, and this is where you enter the three phases of what's going on with Oscar. Because this untimely brings about how much you care about Oscar. Is one, Oscar and Ozma's soul are essentially going to merge together. In which case, we've never actually spoken to the original Ozma. It's just like, he's just untimely merging with soul after soul after soul to become this, like, not collective consciousness, but this personality that's holding multiple memories. Essentially, a collective knowledge or intelligence. That's a possibility. Not a possibility. In terms of modern day Oscar or Ozpin, they get taken over. They're gone. After a certain amount of time, they're gone, and Ozma's soul reigns friggin' supreme. It just fuck. That's a possibility. If that is the possibility, we never knew Ozpin to begin with. If this is the possibility that they end up going with, essentially, yeah, volume 1 to 3 was Ozma. It wasn't Ozpin at all. In which case, who was Ozpin? It starts to become weird. So we got Merge, we got the Takeover, and the other one is it's just a voice in the back of your head type thing, which is what we've seen up till now. Essentially, they can switch so that the other's in the back of the head, and they can fight for dominance over the body, or like who's in control. That could continue being a thing. But then that raises the questions as to whether Ozpin had a voice in the back of his head during volumes 1, 2, 3. And that's where it's getting confusing, because when you look at different parts of volume 6, the dialogue, or even volume 5, no, it's more volume 6. It's essentially up to the point where Ozpin disappears, locks himself away. Up to that point, it's essentially that we're... And then with some dialogue from Oscar going forward, we've essentially seen enough evidence to point towards all three possibilities being valid. The fact that they've communicated with each other tells you that they're able to switch, and that it's just a voice in the back of their head. We've seen Oscar say, "Oh, I don't know how much, time I got left." Like he's actually figured out that he's going to be taken over. It could be pointing towards that. It could be pointing towards that their souls are going to merge. It's essentially that we do not know. It's just like it's going to happen, and well, I'm more curious about the Ozma side of things, because this is the arsehole with all the answers, versus Oscar, who I don't give a shit about. I don't. When characters don't accomplish much, I don't care. It's like, please do something, or just fuck off out of the story. Essentially, that's my feelings towards Yang at the moment. Out of the 4 girls, I feel like Yang Xiaolong really has no reason to still be on this fucking journey. She's like the mother hen that doesn't look after her child. That's how I look at Yang. She's got Rwby, who she's raised, so she's got this motherly personality, but she's so busy eyeing Blake that she doesn't give a fuck about her kid. And that's how I look at Yang right now. And why is she still doing this? Why does her opinion even matter? Who fucking knows? Who friggin' knows? Blake's got the fauna shit going on. Weiss has the whole fucking sneeze shit going on. Rwby's the head protagonist, Mrs. Optimistic Hero. Yang is just an idiot. That's the problem with Yang. I'm not even going to go into that, because I'm not going into the character aspect. The Ozpin thing was a one-off. Next, and these are 3 points, because I've got 5 questions left, and I'm going to try to do them as fast as possible. 3 of them really just sum up all together, because this is world building that has been ignored at its core aspect. It's like, we know nothing. Almost nothing. I would say, if we were rating this on how well we know what's happening in the world of Revenant, we probably know maybe what 20%'s going on. We know the brief outline of what's happened in Atlas concerning the blockade and shit.
We know that Good Witch is trying to rebuild Vale. That's about it. We know jack shit about world building in this show. Um, Essentially, we're gonna go through a different one. Yeah, this will work this way. Okay, and you can disagree with me if you want. The fandom doesn't know who the headmaster of Haven is. The new headmaster. Fair enough, they're on school break, but essentially, you think, and it's not just our hero's point of view. You think the Council of Anima would essentially have this on their to-do list. Their number one priority is to get that school back open. Because essentially what we the viewer, know is Lionheart working with Salem together killed a lot of goddamn huntsmen. Anima's at an all-time low for huntsmen. And they don't have they don't have a military. They got police, and I was kind of disappointed with the police. They, might want to put some automated guns on those friggin' flying ships. Could come in handy. Just an idea. Yeah, Headmaster of Haven, and given that the schools were created roughly 80 years ago, and we don't know how old Ozpin is, and friggin' how exactly the timeline over who created the schools, over who Ozpin being put in charge, was Ozma's spirit put into Ozpin, who was already a headmaster or a teacher? We don't know this shit. It's annoying. But essentially, since 80 years since the schools are created, this is the first time that we've seen a situation for the schools where Ozpin, who picks the headmasters, is essentially not around to replace one because he's going through a reincarnation thing that he hasn't told anybody about because he's so secretive. So essentially, yeah, Volume 6 started and we were never told who the headmaster of Haven is, and it gets weirder because Team Sun is basically going back to Vacchio because it's Sun's hometown. And the idea that they're going back there is like, are they going back there for a reason? Like, essentially, Adam is low on huntsmen, so Team Sun staying in Anima to help out makes sense. Essentially being there for when the school reopens, because you think opening the school as soon as possible would make sense. But the only way I see it is essentially you're sending Team Sun to Vacchio, not for reasons that make sense to the story, but for reasons that make sense to production. Basically, you're like, one, we're removing Sun from the story, so we don't have to animate his gun chucks because they're a pain in the ass. There goes a lot of your budget in an instant and time. If we have to take Sun to Atlas, fuck that. That's us sad because we love the gun chucks, but let's be honest, Rwby, they can animate them, they just can't do them long term. The longer the fight goes on, nah. We've only seen brief instances, and it's such a shame for such a good weapon. So essentially what they've done is, here's Neptune, here's that, all these people that, from friggin' thingy, we're just going to send them to Vacchio, because sooner or later, Team Rwby's and group after Atlas are going to head to Vacchio, and that gives us enough time, and hopefully, to ask for a bigger budget and bloody stuff. It's basically just prolonging the inevitable. So yes, lack of huntsmen in Anima. Who's the headmaster of Haven? This goes into the next point as we travel further back in time to Volume 3. The battlefield of Beacon/Vale. If anyone's seen any sort of battle, war, in any type of show, there's some form of no man's land. And essentially that's what we're looking at with Vale on one end, the city, Beacon on the cliff. Beacon is infested. This is grim infestation, and somehow they're hinting at that Salem has the power to manipulate Grim on a global scale because the Grim are looking for the relic. The Grim are looking for the relic. I thought the relics are hidden and require maidens to get to. Why the fuck are the Grim looking for the relic? You got Cinder, and now you know Cinder's alive, and you're just like, oh, not gonna bring her back. She's off thinking for what she did wrong. And I'm like, wow. Salem one cocky bitch if she's willing to let Cinder go off on her own with maiden powers. I thought you needed that bitch to get into the friggin' to the Beacon relic. Apparently she doesn't. She doesn't care. She's got Grim. Consequences. The story makes no sense. What if, honestly, what if, right? Just this is Oscar's sitting there, right, and he's just like, dude, Ozpin, yo, bro, yeah, did you really put extra protection up against the Beacon relic? Nah, bro, I didn't. I don't know why they haven't found it. Dude, you know we encountered Cinder in friggin' Haven. Oh my god. My ex-wife's a dumbass. That's essentially what we're looking at. That's Rwby in a nutshell. Salem's a fucking dumbass. Anyway, essentially, we've had no flashback of Beacon and Vale. We don't know what the hell is going on there. We don't know how bad the infestation is. We don't know how much of Vale is lost. We don't know how many huntsmen are actually left in Vale. Without the school open, we don't know where the huntsmen are coming from. We don't know. We are pretty sure that Vale doesn't have a military. This is world building crumbling. Essentially, it's like watching Game of Thrones and realizing the final season, after episode 3, Daenerys was supposedly lost all her Dothraki and most of her Unsullied, and then by the time the last episode comes around, she's got most of her Dothraki back, and her Unsullied have multiplied. It's friggin'. That's essentially. I can see something like that happening in Rwby when we get back to Vale. It's just huntsmen are just gonna pop out of the fucking brick walls, and you're just gonna be like, where? Like, we get it. Grim can be born into warriors instantly. There's no short straw of Grim, but humans essentially take years to grow. Leads into our next one. Now we're headed to Vacchio. The identity of the Vacchio Shade Academy headmaster has never been brought up once. And this is a very weird subject to have. It's throughout volumes 1 to the end of 3, you know, it's understandable. You don't have to bring up Shade Academy's headmaster. Essentially, the world goes to shit because Beacon falls, Grim invasion, White Fang invasion, Vale's in ruins, and that was run by basically Ozpin, the leader of the Illuminati. When something that bad happens, and then you get Crow who starts to open up to Team Ranger, and now he's opening up to Team Rwby, and now Ozpin is in Oscar's head. All this stuff is in fruition. You've just seen Lionheart get labeled a traitor. Like, he was a traitor, And we know about Ironwood, and we know that he holds 2 seats on the council. It's kind of weird that the Shade headmaster has not been brought up once as to who he or she is. Not to mention, can we trust this headmaster, and should we have some form of communication with that said headmaster? Would it be nice, like, if they were going to split up, essentially, I know Gira and Kali are focused on fairness type rights type thing, and they got the people of Menagerie and shit going on, but essentially you could have split up Volume 6 with people going to Argus and Atlas, and the other people heading towards Vacchio to warn them, because essentially Vacchio isn't warned about anything, and that's where I'm starting to see why Coffee might go there, but it's still stupid considering that Vale doesn't have a lot of huntsmen left themselves. So essentially, is Team Coffee going there to like, oh no, it wasn't Atlas, this is fault, let's help with the rift. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not going into that. Essentially, yeah, so we don't know the headmaster at Haven, we don't know what's happening in Beacon Vale, we don't know the identity of Shade Academy's headmaster, and now we get into a bit of an interesting fact, because we're going to Atlas. Consequences. Atlas is full of consequences, and if Volume 6 has one big flaw, giant ass flaw, and it happened right at the end, it probably could have been solved if there was an extra episode that kind of expanded what happened in the last finale of episode 6. Is Atlas Consequences, and this handles a lot of things, because in Volume 6, Team Rwby, Junior, Crow, and all that, they suffered 0 friggin' consequences off Cordovan. Cordovan just had a change of heart and goes, you know what, because you said you're sorry, you can go to Atlas. And I'm like, yeah, but this is one thing that got a bit contradictory in the ending, and really it didn't sit well with me, is that when the plane left at the beginning, when it was just Weiss and Maria on it, and then they turned around and they were picked up by the comms unit, essentially the comms unit was, we don't have like old ladies, blah 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 blah. That's how they found out about Maria, and the first instinct was to attack them, right? Because there's a military blockade up, so you're essentially breaking the law. So that's understandable, but now you got this ship, no communication to Atlas, and the moment they get within range, all Atlas can see is this stray ship coming to Atlas, and they go, Manta 5-1, welcome home. They don't ask for a clearance code or nothing, despite having a military blockade up and suspecting an attack. For all you know, the ship that Team Rwby and all that are on could be a friggin' bomb. It could just be the beginning. It could be an EMP. It could, who knows? It could be anything. Instead, you're like, welcome home. And you're like, how do you know that? Come on. Use your brain. Consequences. Weiss. I'm sorry to say, Weiss is in for a deal of shit. The worst thing that could happen in Volume 7 is that Team Rwby and Junior and all that, they just get into Atlas. Oh, welcome. And I've already heard something that's made me suspect they're gonna do this, in which case I'm not looking forward to it. Is someone mentioned something got leaked of Volume 7 that there's gonna be a ball in Volume 7. Like a ball, like they're gonna house a Schnee ball or some shit. And I'm just like, Weiss should be punished for abandoning her country the day before a military blockade went up to stop anybody from friggin' leaving. And she left under illegal means. She's no longer the heiress. Like, honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Jacques just stripped her of her name and it's like, you're being cast out. You're no longer a Schnee. You got no friggin' Lien, aka money. You got no dust. You got nothing. You're on the street. Get lost. I would be happy to see that happen, not because I want it to happen to Weiss, but because that's consequences for the actions of what happened in the show. Instead, bringing her back into the wealth is just stupid. Mentioned military law. I wouldn't be surprised if Jacques can identify Blake as a belladonna. The belladonna is not a common name in any sense. And when your main enemy of your company is the White Fang, and you know that the White Fang has been founded by Gira Belladonna, and then you mean, oh, this is my friend, Blake Belladonna, the kitty. Bitch, fucking known terror. Oh, but I'm not. That's basically what the show did with Ilya. That's why I did not like Ilya's friggin' character redemption whatsoever. It's like, because I'm starting to see a theme. It's volume 6. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, we'll let you into Atlas. Ilya, I'm sorry. Oh, well, you're not going to prison. The rest of them can go to prison, but Ilya doesn't because she's a lesbian. Blake, I'm sorry, Mr. Jacques. Oh, that's okay, honey. I'll let you off, sweetie. I swear, if this shit is power of friendship, I'm sorry crap, this show is gonna lose, I reckon, by the end of volume 7. If that's the theme they go for, they're gonna lose a lot more of their fan base. Like, yeah, that's a very stupid way to go. In the last one, because this is a long video, and this is does Maria serve a purpose? She hasn't, essentially everything she's technically told Rwby has been contradictory to how Rwby's powers have functioned in the past, and has also been stuff that Rwby already knows. Oh, Rwby, you have to test your powers in battle against the Grim. No shit, Sherlock. Rwby, think happy thoughts. Why? Essentially. I never got this. This is like a silver-eyed power retcon. That's what I took away from Volume 6, because I'm like, when Silver Eyes first manifested in Rwby, in Volume 3, when she witnessed Pyridette, when you witness someone dying, crumbling to ashes in front of you, you do not think of all the happy things in your head. Rwby would have been going through pain, anguish, torment, fear. Lots of negative emotions would have triggered her powers to awaken at that point. And then you get this mentor that comes in and starts sprouting shit about think happy thoughts, and you're just like, but she wasn't thinking happy thoughts when her powers manifested. It doesn't, no. And besides that, what can Maria do going forward? Nothing. Like, Maria, like, if I had a tier list, she's, and most hated characters, Maria really just hits that, because I'm just like, we were waiting for another silver-eyed warrior to enter the show, and Maria was just stupid. Essentially, she's dry American humor at its worst. Oh, why do you hate this woman? Because of cashews. Because of fucking cashews. Isn't that hilarious? No, it's actually quite petty and stupid. Why? Really? Ren and Nora, kill him. At this point, kill him. I know the only goddamn reason Ren is still alive in any goddamn case is because Monty used to voice him, and because Monty's brother is now voicing him. Beyond that, I may like the ship, but their characters serve zero friggin' purpose in the show. Besides extra animation. Get rid of Ren and Nora. You could have left them in Anima. They could have been helping to, because that's their homeland technically, help to re-establish Haven. They did not need to friggin' go to Atlas. We should have had Ilya going to Atlas. God damn. Should have had Ilya. Should have had Adam and Ilya go to Atlas. Then you could have had Blake, Ilya, and Adam. The three faces of the Faunus oppression in Atlas, dealing with the Faunus oppression in each different way. From terrorism to violence when necessary to trying to establish peace through Weiss. It would have been freaking perfect. But you had to kill one for a lesbian ship. You had to bloody send the other on her way for no friggin' reason. And now you got Blake. Oh. Ren and Nora serve no purpose, Maria serves no purpose, and Yang serves no goddamn purpose besides ship baiting at this point. This is a character with zero motivation going forward. And that's it. That's it. I would like people's views. People's views on Ozpin Oscar, Ozma's soul functioning, headmaster of Haven, the lack of huntsmen in Anima, the battlefield of Beacon Vale, no schools open, no students, the identity of Shade Academy's headmaster, Atlas consequences for Weiss, martial law, Blake's identity, Volume 6 having zero consequences in general for the team. Maria doesn't serve a purpose. I wonder if people agree with that. Ren and Nora should just be offed at this point because they... Or just dropped, similar to Team Sun. They should have just got rid of. I understand Jean, I really do understand Jean staying at this point. But Ren and not yet. So over those two, so over them. And Yang, the only reason she's still in the show is because she's the original one of the four girls. But honestly, I don't fucking care. Like. Honestly, if it wasn't the ship baiting, this is a character that has zero purpose in the goddamn show. And I want someone to tell me different. I mean, I don't completely agree with Blake's character, but she serves a purpose. Weiss serves a purpose. Rwby, for the protagonist's sake, serves a goddamn purpose. Jean does serve more of a purpose than Rwby, technically, in terms of connections and stuff. But yeah, Yang's garbage. And shout out to Noble on YouTube for giving me the inspiration to make the freaking video. Hey, look, the light. Sun's out. Stop raining. I can go get my hair cut and shaved on. Let me know.